This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business, politics, art, and culture that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is Dr. Abdullah Abdullah. So before we ask a question to Dr. Abdullah, who's a passionate, who's committed to arts, culture, and poetry. So recently, a renowned Qawwal, Amjad Sabri, was gunned down in Karachi, Pakistan. We're devoting this segment of the show to remember his life and his legacy of a man named Amjad Sabri. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Frank.
Thank you very much for coming here. So tell me a little bit about, we invited you to tell us a little bit about, share your thought on Amjad Sabri, his art, his culture, his love, and his passion for Qawwali. Who's this man anyway?
Oh, who's this man? Amjad Sabri, his full name was Amjad Farid Sabri, and he was born somewhere in mid-70s, and his third son of a very famous Qawwal, Ghulam Farid Sabri.
Okay.
And he grew up, in that family, and he was trained by his father, like other children and all that, and took the charge of the family business, singing Qawwali only after the death of his father and his uncle. And actually, that was by chance, because in their family, there is a tradition that, the elder son
takes it over from the father.
Right. You know it well, because you come from a Shah family.
Right.
So that's the tradition. So like you, the elder brother who lives in England, Sarwat Sabri, he thought that his next was more talented in this art and all that, so he handed over the charge to them. And so he lived in the shadow of his father and uncle for a while, but he made his own.
And they live in Pakistan, Karachi?
They live in Pakistan, Liaquatabad, Karachi area, and where they live since 1947.
Mm-hmm.
And this fellow actually was very humble man, in spite of all the fame and everything. He used to mingle with the street children and older people, and he was helping about 24, 25
God
families.
bless him. God bless him.
And really, he was gunned down, as you said, and his death, his demise, has instilled really a sense of hopelessness in the progressive section of Pakistan.
You use the word sense of helplessness or hopelessness?
Hopelessness.
And helplessness as well.
Yes.
So who was this fellow who assassinated him, and why did he kill such a man, as you describe it, a humble person, a man who had a passion, a commitment with the Qawwali, and he was following in the footsteps and tradition of his father, and he has so much to give to not only to Pakistan, but all over the world. Did they ever find this fellow, and what was the motivation behind it?
They have not found the fellow. No arrest has been, the investigation is going on. And Karachi being a large metropolitan area, this could be a political reason, there could be extortion money and all that. But so far, Taliban, they have claimed the responsibility of killing him. And Taliban, their claim has some credibility because they attacked 2 other shrines in the past. And the reason they say that because the content of the poetry was like a blasphemy, and that's why.
So they did not subscribe to his notion of poetry.
That is true, and the religious intolerance, unfortunately, is going. So much in the entire subcontinent. In India, it's different, but in Pakistan, within the same religion, different shades, they don't like each other. So, and I was wondering that if poets like Mir and Ghalib, they were alive today,
they would have been gunned down long time ago.
Gunned down because most of the languages, they start with poetry, then the prose comes later.
Okay.
And in poetry, most of the places you will see that the religious poetry came first. Urdu is the only language which started as a rebellion against the organized religion. And it is shame because Mir, I can give you one example,
sure.
a couplet of Mir that
sure.
Mir ke deeno mazhab ko क्या पूछो हो उनने तो कशका खींचा दैर में बैठा कब का तर्क इस्लाम किया.
Wow. I don't know what that means,
No,
but
no,
sounds good.
means something like this, that Mir says that, like what to talk about the religion and faith of Mir. This guy has put tilak on his forehead and sitting in the temple for a long time, and he gave up Islam
So
forever.
who will carry on this tradition that has been there in their family for such a long time?
I think that
His younger brother will carry on? Or what makes you think he would not become the victims of the Taliban's hatred?
That's only the future knows that, what Taliban will do and how Pakistan changes. But right now, according to tradition, either his elder son, who is about 12, Amjad's son,
He's very young.
he is very young, or maybe some other brother will pick up, because all these brothers and everybody was trained together. So that's the way it is. I mean, so I really don't know. It's a sad thing.
So what is the definition of a qawwali means to the audience, Dr. Abdullah, and can you recite a qawwali that could potentially resonate with the audience?
The second part will be difficult, but qawwali, the word came. I mean, let me tell you a little bit background of this
Take
family.
Your time.
Family, they have their lineage to the Mia Tansen, the famous legendary court singer of Emperor Akbar, whom Akbar gave, they say that, 1,000 gold coins in the first performance.
So that goes back to the 15th century of Mughal.
That's right. And since then they had some singer each generation. Even Ghulam Farid Sabri's paternal and maternal grandfathers, I mean Dada and Nana, both were singers, and they migrated to Pakistan.
From India?
From India in 1947. They come from the area in near Panipat, Rohtak, very close
That's
to
the
Delhi.
Battle of Panipat.
Yes,
that was fought
that's right.
against the Lodi and Mughals.
Yeah, many battles. I mean,
Yeah, right.
So they came, and this guy, Ghulam Farid, he was young, about 17 years old. And like any refugee, they had to work very hard.
So a 17-year-old man, that was his father, migrated from India to Pakistan.
With his father. And then he was put to do a lot of labor work. So he was breaking
So that's a matter of survival.
Yeah, breaking, like bricks and stones and all that to make shelter for the incoming refugees. So, but he got sick. The doctors told him that he cannot sing because his lungs was affected. But his father was so determined to continue the family tradition, and he saw the quality of the voice his son had. So he forced him to practice for 4 hours every day. So this guy will work all day, sleep few hours, then get up early in the morning and take shower and do the morning prayer and sit there 4 hours along with the
To practice.
And sometimes, because it was a commune living, so people got so fed up, they will come and beat them up for practicing early in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
But that determination, that commitment to art and all that paid off, because they formed the group in 1958, and soon he became Middle East and came to United States, and they did 2 things distinct. One is they revived the old tradition of what we call qawwali, and then he also introduced qawwali to the West. Now coming back to your question, what is qawwali?
Yeah, what is a qawwali?
Qawwali came from the word qawl, which is an Arabic word. Qawl means saying.
Saying?
Saying.
Oh, saying.
Bolna, saying.
Okay.
And the sayings of Sufis, saints, awliyas, and all these wise people, if that is qawl, and then if you put that qawl into poetry and sing it into certain style with help of music, then it becomes qawwali. And
So, if I remember correctly, and you mentioned about Sufi. So there's a lot of Sufi shrine in India, and I'm sure there's also in Pakistan. That the qawwali, when there's urs, and urs means that that's the anniversary when these Qawwal people come in and sing. They still cherish that kind of a tradition in India and Pakistan, and this fellow was a part of that tradition?
Certainly they cherish. Actually, there are several Sufi orders. The Chishtiya order practices this singing.
Chishtiya is the fellow, you're talking about the Chishti family from Ajmer.
Ajmer and Nizamuddin Awliya was also Chishti.
But the Nizamuddin Awliya was earlier than that.
Right. The thing is that the Qawwali in India, it is really Indian art. Before that...
So it originated in India?
Qawwali originated in India. It originated in basically on the border of Turkey and Iran, but that was called Sama.
Okay.
And Sama was listening, and that was the Rumi, the famous Sufi poet. Rumi is attributed to...
But by the way, Rumi was Afghanistani or the Turkish?
He was born in
Afghanistan, correct.
Balkh area, and then he lived in Turkey.
In Turkey, right.
Because in those days, those borders did not mean anything.
Right.
So people used to cross all the time. But he was the one who really did what they call Sama. So he used to write essays and all that and lecture, but his very close friend Shams Tabriz got murdered. And after that he started writing poetry, devotional poetry, love poetry. And then he will not write himself on the paper, he will dictate it. And his disciples will write, and by dictating that time he will make circles. And that circle became the beginning of Dervish dancing.
That's a Turkish tradition.
That's a Turkish tradition, and Dervish dancing and then singing. When in India, in the middle of 13th century, all these influences, Iranian influence, Central Asian influence, Afghan influence, Turkish influence, Arabic influence, they had brought all this music, and they had brought the various form of singing. So it was a genius of Amir Khusro who created a fusion mixing the Indian bhajan style, kirtan style, Indian alaps.
You talking about Amir Khusro?
Amir Khusro. And then it was an amalgamation of all those things that he created.
So it produced a unique Indian
that was
art
totally
and
Indianized.
Okay.
And that is basically Amir Khusro is...
it's Amir Khusro, as I understand, mother was Indian and father was Turkish. Am I correct to assume that?
Correct.
And he's buried at where the Nizamuddin Awliya is buried.
That's right.
And he was in 13th century or 14th century he was there?
He was 13th century.
13th century.
13th century.
This is the time of the Delhi Sultanate.
Right.
Okay. Who was the queen? Razia Sultana was there?
No, little later, Khilji family was there.
Family.
I mean,
they were from Afghanistan.
He served 7 kings, but that's a different story.
Okay.
But Amir Khusro's other genius is actually what we call India's composite culture, or they call Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb. He is the fellow who was basically founder of that, because not only music and all that, but even in languages, all the northern Indian languages, he knew 7 or 8 languages, northern Indian languages, and he combined with Persian, combined with Uzbek and Arabic and Turkish, and he started writing in that. So a lot of qawwalis he wrote, they are in this language, and he used to call it Hindvi. Hindvi means the language of Hindustan. Later on, this Hindvi, during British period, through their policy of divide and rule, got into 2 divisions, Urdu and Hindi.
सफीना लिख दे जन्नत भी गवारा है। अजय जी, मैं अपने वालिद साहब जैसा तो खैर नहीं पढ़ सकता, लेकिन कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि ये शेर अपने वालिद और अपने चचा के अंदाज में कहूँ। अगर आप लोगों को लगे कि मैं थोड़ा बहुत भी कामयाब हो गया अपने वाले साहब या अपने चचा की आवाज़ बनाने में, तो आपकी दाद मेरा हौसला अफजाई करेगी। समात फरमाइए ये शेर अपने वाले साहब और चचा के अंदाज में।
रुश्वत में मेरी चार से जीना लिख दे, डूबे न कभी मेरा सवेरा लिख दे।
जन्नत भी गवारा
शुक्रिया।
जन्नत भी गवारा है मगर मेरे लिए ऐ कातिब तकदीर मदीना लिख दे। ताजदारे हरम ओ निगाहे करम, ताजदारे हम गरीबों के दिल, वो दिल भी संवर जाएंगे। ताजदारे वो दिल भी संवर जाएंगे। ताजदारे हरम निगाहे करम, हम गरीबों के दिल भी संवर जाएंगे।
ताजदारे हम वो कदम ताजदारे निगाह कदम ताजदारे, हम सब पे कदम ताजदारे निगाह कदम ताजदारे, हम सब पे कदम ताजदारे वो कदम ताजदारे वो कदम
अल्लाह
चश्म रहमत भी कुछ आंसू में बलरदाज नजर, ऐ कुरैशी लक़बी हाशिमियों मुत्तलबी, ताजदारे हरम हो सवाल है या मुस्तफा
So tell us a little bit. So we talked about Qawwali, we talked about the Amjad Sabri, who was a. So his tradition, do you believe will carry on? And you suggested that
I hope
not
so.
From his brothers, that continuous, they will continue
I hope
that
so.
tradition.
I really they have not. They are still mourning, so they have not given the the charge who will lead this. But it will difficult. I mean, he was very gifted person. Amjad Sabri, he could have very easily replaced his father and uncle. I don't know if anybody else has the talent. Only time will tell. So it's a difficult.
It is?
I mean, it's a difficult. I mean, to predict right now.
So what kind of poetry is sung in Qawwali? Are you talking about the Sufis?
No, the Sufi poetry that came from Persian.
Yes,
I
right.
mean, Rumi's writing. Then as Amir Khusru wrote a lot of
Right.
a lot of poetry for that in praise of Nizamuddin Auliya. And in fact, he took up the old Hindu tradition in sense he considered himself Radha and Nizamuddin Auliya is Krishna. So he wrote a lot of things in that form, a devotee of him. And then later on, even the ghazals, they were sung in the poetic, I mean in the singing style of Qawwali. Then Indian films came and they did things in according to their need, basically that, what the situation demanded.
I would hope the Qawwali will live in bright lights and dark shadows, and those shadows will be everywhere.
No, it will live in, the quality depends.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing is that.
Well, thank you very much for coming
Oh, you're
here
welcome.
and talking to our audience and sort of educating them what Qawwali is, what Qawwal is, and also remembering the life and the legacy of Amjad Sabri, who has given so much to not only this country, but all over the world. And I hope that tradition will live on. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week, and thank you very much for watching.